it's officially the first weekend of summer. Our weathercast may look gloomy, but it's still a good time to think about summer sun safety. Our next guest, Dr. Ellen Gendler, uses social media like TikTok to spread no-nonsense advice about sunscreen and skincare. She's a board-certified dermatologist who educates her followers about the effects of sunlight and the importance of sun protection. Millions of Americans develop skin cancer every year, but it's often preventable. Doctor joins us now over Zoom. Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, many of us have experience using sunscreen, but we still end up with a sunburn or streaks. How does that happen? What are we doing wrong?
It happens for only two reasons. Either you didn't apply it at all or you applied it wrong. Possibly that it wore off when you were swimming or doing some other kind of activity.
All right, what's the right way, the biggest mistake on how people do it when you say that you applied it wrong?
Well, slip, slap, slop. You take your hands, you go like this, you miss, half your skin surface. So you've got to do it really, really carefully.
All right. Now, buying sunscreen can be kind of confusing. So many choices now. What should people look for besides a high SPF number?
Well, here's the problem. SPF refers only to ultraviolet B, which are the burning rays, and that's where most people get into trouble. So I see people who always use sunscreen and they're very tan. The problem is you need ultraviolet A coverage, and that's where people get into trouble. So all of us are very well protected when we use standard US sunscreens, because ultraviolet B is a very good coverage area in the US, but unfortunately ultraviolet A is not, and that's why you see so many tan people.
All right, what's the difference between mineral and chemical sunscreens? Why or when should we choose them?
Well, mineral is something that contains zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. Chemical sunscreens are those that have these long chemical names. And the word is that chemical sunscreens absorb light and minerals block it. It's not entirely true because they both do a little of each, but that's the premise. So many people think that they're getting non-chemical products by using a mineral sunscreen. It's just not true because zinc oxide itself is a chemical.
All right, kids notorious for hating to apply sunscreen. What are the pros and cons of using sprays and stick formulas?
Well, the problem with getting kids to wear sunscreen is that parents are not forceful enough. So in my opinion, sunscreen should be treated like a seatbelt. You don't put your seatbelt on, you're not going in the car. Ditto with sunscreen. You need to apply it very thoroughly and teach them how to do it so they can take ownership of it. Spray sunscreens are not very good because think about it. You spray it on yourself, half of it goes into the room, and then you really would have to rub it in to actually make it effective. Plus, they're tiny little particles. Lotions and creams are a much better option. Stick sunscreens are nice as touch-ups. You're sweating, you take a stick, you put it right over the sensitive areas, or you can double up on your nose, let's say, but I would not ever recommend using a stick sunscreen as my only method of protection.
All right. Do you have any other special recommendations to keep safe in the sun this summer?
Well, I do, and it's unfortunate that we in the U.S. are far behind Europe and Asia in our addition of good ultraviolet A protecting sunscreens, because we know that those are the deeper rays that probably cause more damage than ultraviolet B. So what I talk about a lot is trying to get people to be aware of this. If possible, get their hands on some European or Asian sunscreens that contain these good ingredients. And there's lots of us, particularly dermatologists, but some other chemical cosmetic scientists who talk about the good ingredients. Find people you trust on social media, or hopefully your dermatologist knows about this, and get the scoop on what you should be looking for. It's easier now to find these products. Look for a high SPF and double layer. If you're going to use a US chemical sunscreen, put a mineral sunscreen on top of it. It's really important to be safe because you don't always see the effects for decades to come.
Dermatologist Dr. Ellen Gendler, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, if you'd like more skincare advice from Dr. Gendler, go to our website, cbsnewyork.com.